Have you ever stopped, truly stopped, in the middle of a busy day, looked in the mirror, and asked the person staring back at you, "Who are you?" Not your name, not your job, not your relationships, but the silent observer behind your eyes. The consciousness that is experiencing this very moment. What is that? Is it just a clever trick of chemicals and electricity fizzing inside your brain? A biological computer running its programming? Or is it something more? Something timeless, something profound, something else? For millennia, we have called this mysterious essence the soul. And for just as long, we have debated, fought, and wondered about its existence. It has been the domain of priests, philosophers, and poets. But I want you to forget the traditional descriptions of a ghostly, ethereal spirit, because today we are going to explore a radical new definition of the soul, one that is emerging from the strange and mind-bending frontiers of modern science. But what if I told you that today, in the 21st century, the quest to understand the soul is no longer confined to ancient texts and quiet monasteries? What if science, the very discipline that was supposed to kill the idea of a soul, is now finding itself staring right into its face? Welcome, fellow thinkers, to Summary Thought, the channel where we dive headfirst into the most profound and challenging ideas shaping our world. Today, we are embarking on an extraordinary journey, guided by a remarkable scientific paper titled The Science of the Soul, a multidisciplinary exploration, authored by Dr. Nagesh NV. This is a treasure map. It's a guide that takes us through the winding corridors of history, into the flashing neural networks of our brains, and out to the mind-bending frontiers of quantum physics, all in a relentless search for the true nature of our existence. So, buckle up, because this is the itinerary for our expedition into the inner cosmos. First, we begin our journey by diving into the fascinating link between the soul and consciousness. Are they two names for the same reality, or entirely different mysteries? Then we'll travel back in time to see how our ancestors, from the pyramid builders of Egypt to the great thinkers of ancient Greece and the sages of the East, tried to grasp the concept of the soul. Then, we will leap into the modern era and confront the ultimate puzzle, consciousness itself. We'll explore what today's brain science can tell us about where our consciousness comes from and how ancient spiritual traditions offer a radically different answer. From there, we will venture into the strangest and most exhilarating territory of all, the world of quantum mechanics. We'll ask a question that might sound like science fiction but is now a serious scientific inquiry. Is the soul a form of energy? Is your consciousness connected to the very fabric of the universe? Finally, we'll bring all these threads together to see what a complete, holistic picture of a human being, body, mind, and spirit truly looks like. This is not a lecture. This is an adventure. And it's one that might just change the way you see yourself and the universe forever. Part 1. What is the connection between soul and consciousness? So, let's talk about the soul, and let's talk about consciousness. In our journey, we are going to use these words in the same breath, but are they really the same thing? This is one of the most important puzzles the paper helps to solve, and the answer it gives is not only fascinating but also deeply beautiful and empowering. The short answer is no, they are not the same. But they are so deeply connected that you can't have one without the other. To truly understand this, I want you to imagine a candle flame. The flame itself, the core, the tiny, dancing source of heat and energy that is always there, that is the soul. It's the actual, fundamental, eternal being that exists at the center of you. It's the source, the engine, the silent and timeless you that has always been and always will be. Now, what does that flame do? What is its entire purpose? It produces light. That light, the radiance that shines out and fills the room, the awareness that emanates from the source, the glow that allows you to see and experience the world, that is consciousness. It is the soul's primary quality, its expression, its activity. Consciousness is the experience of being alive, and the soul is the source of that experience. You can't have the light without the flame. And a flame that produces no light isn't much of a flame, is it? They are two inseparable sides of the same divine coin. The soul is the eternal being, and consciousness is the experience of that being. Part 2, The Ancient Echo, Humanity's Timeless Quest for the Soul. So now, let's dive in the dust of ancient civilizations, where the concept of the soul was not a philosophical curiosity, but a fundamental truth that shaped entire societies. The article reminds us that for as long as we have been human, we have been obsessed with the idea that there is more to us than just flesh and bone. Imagine you're in ancient Egypt. The air is thick with the smell of incense and the sound of chanting. Here, your soul isn't just an idea, it's your passport to the afterlife. It's the part of you that will stand before the gods to have its deeds weighed on a scale. Your soul was your moral compass, your eternal essence, and its fate was the most important thing in your life. Now, let's jump across the Mediterranean to ancient Greece, where the intellectual giants Plato and Aristotle were having one of the most important debates in history. Picture Plato, sitting with his students, arguing that your body is like a temporary car, and your soul is the driver. The car might get old, rusty, and eventually break down, but the driver, the real you, is immortal and just moves on. He believed our souls came from a perfect, heavenly realm and were temporarily trapped in these physical bodies, always longing to return home. But his brilliant student, Aristotle, saw it differently. For him, you couldn't separate the soul from the body. He would say the soul is like the heat and light of a flame. You can't have the flame without the heat and light, and you can't have the heat and light without the flame. The soul, for Aristotle, was the very life force, the spark that makes a lump of matter into a living, breathing, thinking person. These two powerful ideas, the soul as a trapped passenger and the soul as the living spark, have shaped how the Western world thinks about this mystery for thousands of years. But the West didn't have a monopoly on this quest. Let's travel east, to the ancient lands of India. In the Hindu tradition, the soul, called the Atman, is imagined as a single, divine drop of water that has fallen from a vast, cosmic ocean called Brahman. This ocean is everything, the entire universe, God, the ultimate reality. The goal of life, then, is to realize that you are not just the drop, separate and alone. You are the ocean. Your true identity is divine and eternal. In a fascinating twist, Buddhism came along and offered a revolutionary counter-idea. The Buddha looked inward and said, when you search for this permanent, unchanging self or soul, you can't find it. What you find instead is a constantly shifting, changing flow of thoughts, feelings, and sensations. The idea of a fixed you is an illusion. He called this anatta, or non-self. He taught freedom or nirvana comes from letting go of this desperate grip on the idea of a permanent self and learning to flow with the river of existence. For centuries, these grand epic stories about the soul guided humanity. But then, a few hundred years ago, a new story began to take over. The story of science. During a period called the Enlightenment, brilliant thinkers started to look at the world in a new way. They dissected bodies, studied the brain, and began to believe that everything, including our thoughts and feelings, could be explained by physical stuff. Consciousness wasn't a mystery. It was just the humming of the machine in our skulls. The soul was a ghost, a myth from a pre-scientific age that we no longer needed. It seemed for a while that science had killed the soul. But, as this paper shows us, the story was far from over. The soul wasn't dead. It was just waiting to reappear in the most unexpected place imaginable, inside science itself. Part 3. The Great Puzzle. Unraveling Consciousness. This brings us to the modern battlefield where the debate over the soul is being waged, the study of consciousness. What is it? Where does it come from? Science has done incredible things. With fMRI scanners, we can watch thoughts light up the brain like a city at night. We can see which parts are active when you feel love, fear, or joy. The scientific story today is that consciousness isn't one single thing. It's more like a symphony. It's the sound that emerges when billions of brain cells or neurons all play their part in perfect harmony. From this point of view, your feeling of you is the music. And when the orchestra stops playing, when the brain dies, the music simply fades to silence. But there's a huge, gaping hole in this story, a puzzle so deep that philosophers call it the hard problem. Science is great at explaining what the brain does. It can describe how light from a sunset hits your eyes, gets converted into electrical signals, and is processed by your visual cortex. It can give you the full instruction manual, but it cannot explain why it feels like something to see that sunset. Why is there a rich inner world of colors, sounds, emotions, and thoughts? You can know every chemical reaction that happens when you eat a piece of chocolate, but that will never tell you what chocolate tastes like. That inner experience, that feeling of being alive, is the central mystery that a purely physical science struggles to explain. This is where Dr. Nagesh's article introduces a fascinating and powerful alternative, a spiritual perspective from a group called the Brahma Kumaris. They flip the whole problem on its head. They say we're asking the wrong question. It's not, how does the brain create consciousness? It is, how does consciousness use the brain? They teach that our true nature is the soul, which they describe as a tiny, eternal point of light, a being of pure consciousness, located in the forehead. The brain, in their view, is like a super advanced virtual reality headset. The soul is the player wearing the headset, experiencing the world through the senses of the body. They argue we live most of our lives in body consciousness, a state where we forget we are the player and believe we are the character in the game. We identify with our bodies, our jobs, our possessions, our egos. They say this is the source of all our fear, anger, and suffering. The solution is to cultivate soul consciousness, to remember, through meditation and self-reflection, that we are the calm, peaceful, loving soul that is merely using the body. This idea is radical. It challenges the entire foundation of modern neuroscience. But you don't have to choose one over the other. Imagine the brain is a massive, world-class orchestra with billions of musicians, the neurons. When they all play together in perfect coordination, they create the beautiful, complex music of our thoughts, feelings, and experiences. In this view, consciousness is the music that emerges from the orchestra's activity. Without the orchestra, there is no music. From the materialist perspective, consciousness is simply a product of the brain. The article invites us to consider both. What if the brain is an incredibly complex biological machine, a symphony of neurons, and what if the soul is the conductor of that symphony? A conductor doesn't play a single instrument or make any sound themselves, yet they are absolutely essential. The conductor is the guiding intelligence, the will, and the intention behind the music. Soul reads the score, life's purpose and spiritual values, and directs the orchestra, the brain, to play the music, which is the experience of life, in a particular way. They set the tempo and bring emotion and coherence to the entire performance. In this analogy, the soul is the conductor, a non-physical consciousness that uses the physical brain, the orchestra, as its magnificent instrument to express itself and interact with the world. This suggests that the brain's activity isn't just random, it's being guided by a deeper, non-physical self. This invites us to see a harmonious partnership instead of a conflict, where the soul needs the brain to create the experience of life, and the brain's incredible complexity is given meaning and direction by the soul. This isn't just an abstract thought experiment. It has profound consequences. If you truly start to see yourself and everyone around you not as just bodies, but as eternal souls on a journey, it changes everything. It becomes much harder to hate, to judge, or to harm. It fosters a deep sense of connection and compassion. It's a perspective that seeks not to replace science, but to give it a heart. Part 4, The Strange Frontier, Quantum Physics and the Energetic Soul. If you thought that was a big leap, hold on tight because we are now heading to the very edge of reality, to a place where the rules of common sense break down completely. The article takes us into the bizarre, mind-bending world of quantum physics, and it asks a question that will stretch your imagination to its limits. What if the soul isn't a thing at all? What if it's a form of energy? What if your consciousness is literally connected to the fabric of the universe? For over 100 years, physicists have known that the world of the very small, the world of atoms and the particles inside them, is an incredibly strange place. Down there, particles can be in many places at once, like a ghost that is in every room of a house at the same time. Two particles can be linked together in a mysterious way, like cosmic twins. If you poke one, the other one reacts instantly, even if it's on the other side of the galaxy. The great Albert Einstein himself was so baffled by this he called it spooky action at a distance. The solid, predictable world we see around us dissolves at this level into a shimmering, vibrating dance of pure energy and potential. And here's the kicker. The very act of observing this quantum world changes it. It's as if the universe knows you're looking. It's not that the universe has a mind, but it means we are not just separate spectators watching a show. At the most fundamental level of existence, the act of observation is an act of creation. We are participants who influence reality just by paying attention to it. So, what does this have to do with the soul? Everything. This new physics is shattering the old idea of a universe made of separate, dead little bits of matter. It's painting a picture of a universe that is a single, interconnected, vibrating whole. The article uses spooky action at a distance as a clue about the soul. It suggests that maybe our consciousness, or our soul, isn't just locked inside our brain. Instead, it might be connected to a bigger, universal consciousness, almost like we're all part of a giant, invisible Wi-Fi network. This spooky action in science hints that these kinds of instant, invisible connections are possible in the universe. So, the article is saying that this scientific puzzle could help explain the spiritual idea of a soul that is connected to everything and everyone beyond the limits of our physical bodies. This has led some scientists to propose a radical new theory. What if consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but is a fundamental property of the universe, just like gravity or electromagnetism? What if the brain doesn't create consciousness, but acts more like a radio receiver, tuning into a universal field of consciousness that is all around us? This is where the paper connects modern science to some of the oldest ideas in human history. For thousands of years, traditions like Chinese medicine have talked about a life force energy called qi that flows through the body. In India, it's called prana. These traditions have always believed that our health and well-being depend on the smooth, balanced flow of this subtle energy. Mainstream science used to laugh at these ideas, but not anymore. Some scientists now believe these ancient healers were describing something real, a biofield, a field of energy that surrounds and permeates our bodies. This leads us to the breathtaking idea of the soul as an energetic phenomenon. Instead of a ghost floating around, imagine your soul as your own unique energy signature, your personal vibrational frequency. It's a complex field of information and energy that interacts with your physical body. From this perspective, your thoughts and emotions are not just brain chemistry. They are fluctuations in your energy field. When you feel love, your vibration changes. When you feel fear, it changes again. Trauma and stress could be seen as distortions or knots in this field, which then lead to physical illness. This would mean that healing practices like meditation, Reiki, or acupuncture aren't just relaxing you. They are literally retuning your energy field, restoring harmony between your body and your soul. This is a vision that bridges the gap between the scientist and the mystic, suggesting that they may have been talking about the same deep reality all along, just using different languages. Part 5. The Grand Synthesis, a new vision of human existence. So, where does this incredible journey leave us? We have traveled from Plato's cave to the quantum field, from the firing of neurons to the eternal nature of the soul. The ultimate conclusion of Dr. Nagesh Envy's article is both simple and profound. To understand ourselves, we need all of it. A purely scientific view that tells us we are just biological robots is incomplete. It's like describing a masterpiece painting by only listing the chemical formulas of the paints used. It misses the beauty, the meaning, the feeling. On the other hand, a purely spiritual view that ignores the incredible discoveries of science can feel ungrounded, like a beautiful dream disconnected from our daily lives. The article argues that the real future lies in building a bridge between these two worlds. It's about creating a new, holistic story of what it means to be human, a story that honors the incredible complexity of our brains, the beautiful machinery of our bodies, and the profound mystery of our consciousness. In this new story, the soul is not at war with science. Instead, science helps us understand the amazing instrument, the body and brain, that the soul uses to experience this world. Thinking this way can change everything. Personally, it gives us permission to explore our inner worlds. Practices like meditation are essential maintenance for our energetic health. It validates that deep feeling we all have that we are more than just our bodies, and it gives us a roadmap for becoming the best versions of ourselves. Socially, the impact could be even bigger. What would our world look like if we all truly believed that we were interconnected, energetic beings? How would we treat each other? How would we treat our planet? It could be the foundation for a more compassionate, more connected, and more empathetic world. We've covered a universe of ideas today, from the whispers of ancient history to the mind-bending theories on the edge of physics, all inspired by this incredible paper. But this conversation doesn't have to end here. For you, it might just be the beginning. What we do here at Summary Thought isn't just about downloading information. It's about lighting a spark, igniting your own curiosity for a lifelong journey of learning. If this exploration resonated with you, if it stretched your mind or made you see yourself in a new light, then become a part of our community of thinkers. Help us spread these big ideas by hitting that like button, sharing this video with someone whose mind you want to expand, and of course, subscribing to Summary Thought for more deep dives into the ideas that shape our world. Every gesture of support helps this channel grow and allows us to continue this amazing journey together. Thank you for lending me your time and your mind. Until next time, keep questioning and keep exploring.